Speaking moistly. Speaking moistly. Keep 2 meters apart. Speaking moistly.
Hi, welcome everybody to Speaking Moistly. It is Greg Wycliffe here, and of course the one, the only, the amazing, the handsome with a new camera, Mark Poilievre. How are you doing today, sir?
Very well. Well, I'm even better after that intro. Holy smokeronies. I don't know if I'll live up to it.
Yeah, well, speaking of living up to things, we have Pierre Poilievre, of course, who everyone is talking about for good reason. Because he seems to be really crapping the bed. He seems to be really showing his true colors. There's really so much to talk about. It's not just kind of one blunder. It was kind of just one after another. I think it started with the release of the POEC verdict, the Emergencies Act inquiry verdict, where essentially he didn't really like challenge the verdict at all. I would argue he kind of rubber stamped all of the authoritarian behavior that Trudeau did after the convoy. He didn't really kind of push back on that at all. And then, well,
the page was turned. The page was turned on Christine Anderson's thing and him calling her a vile racist. So we have to take a step back before we get to this past weekend and all the things that have happened before that. So I've been arguing from the center right position that I thought that Pierre Poilievre was going to, and I think that he's still probably going to, although he may have stepped in it and is not actually going to put this together, but he was on track to putting together a very middle of the road run for prime minister, I think. And people wanted to get on board with that. And I was making the case that I thought a lot of people would get on board with that, PPC voters included. And you were saying that he's nothing but a turncoat. He's going to do exactly the same thing as O'Toole and Scheer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I was basically saying, wait and see, because it looks like a lot of people are very enthusiastic. And I said in the green room, you were right. I was wrong. You were right. I was wrong. Hey. He is and always has been a tool of the elites, the whatever it is, the party, I guess, the uniparty that's running Canada into the NWO, United Nations One World Order, whatever you want to call it. The bad policies are on purpose. And it seems like with Mr. Poilievre really not making any moves with regards to the Freedom Convoy and the result from the Rouleau Commission, despite a lot of indiscrepancies and problems with it, from lawcraft to redacted documents to late documents to not investigating kidnapping by police and more. That being overshadowed by Poilievre's response to Christine Anderson, and then Pierre Poilievre dressing up like Justin Trudeau on the Ukrainian rally 1 year to the day of, I don't know, 8 years after 2014, when NATO invaded and pulled a coup and things were put in motion that sees us where we are now, right? So it seems like, he's all dressed up like Justin Trudeau. He's got the policies of Justin Trudeau. He wants us to believe that he's going to stop the slide into nightmare country that has been started under the Liberals. Do you think? Yeah. I mean, I'm on your side now. I don't think he's going to stop it.
Yes,
probably going to accelerate
it. Good. Get on our side. And the point is to demand higher standards for ourselves. Okay, like the point is to not accept this fake version of conservatism, or not even that. It's just like these people are lying to us. They're saying that they're the people who are going to oppose Trudeau, who are going to stop Trudeau. You can't do that if you're afraid of being called racist. You can't do that if you're not going to actually oppose the alarming authoritarian behavior that this guy Trudeau has been, pushing against their own people. And it really starts to take on a sort of nefarious and more sinister flavor when you realize how, in a way, Pierre Poilievre is being even more dishonest than Justin Trudeau. Like because he's misleading us. He's actually saying, no, I got you. We're going to do this. And I think there's two major examples now. We have two major examples now of why Pierre's not our guy. Number one, the excuse was, no, guys, once he wins the leadership race, that's when he's going to be strong against Trudeau. And then the next one was, that didn't happen, by the way. No. If anything, he got weaker after winning the leadership race.
Which was surprising, I thought.
Well, it's surprising because you believe these people who are talking in your ear, who are saying, no, he's going to wait to be brave. He's going to wait to have courage and conviction. Just wait a little longer. And then
No, I know. But what I thought was that we were seeing a preview of how the campaign would be run to oust Trudeau through Poilievre, because if he's the leader, he sets the party's pace or whatever. But what we
Sure.
saw instead was Poilievre put on the Andrew O'Toole pants and try to put together a winning platform or a winning coalition or whatever the heck it was that O'Toole tried to win with and that Scheer tried to win with. And it's not going to work because that's not what people signed up for a milquetoast, ridiculous liberal in blue clothes, right?
Yeah, and it's fundamentally flawed. It's fundamentally a losing attitude that the CPC has always been, which is, okay, guys, we're going to win by absolutely being terrified of being called names from our opponents. We're going to win by
Man,
trying
we're
to
going to-
we're
we're
going to
we're
try
gonna-
to play ball with the media that hates us and, you know, stomps all over our ideas at every turn. And it's like,
And
we're going to do
steal
this
the liberal
to not
ideas.
get called racist. You're going to get called racist anyway,
Yeah.
and you're going to be a pussy. So there you go. There's
Yeah.
the result.
It's
of that.
lose. It doesn't work. And people they're not attracted to it. They don't see strong leadership in that.
Exactly.
And so
it's not bringing anyone new into the fold. When there is a
Right.
lot of disenchanted, disenfranchised Canadians, they're not going to respond to this dishonest sort of like hawing like leader. Like I feel like the Conservative Party has for years always turned people off because they do have this sort of like grimy, slimy, I'm not telling the whole truth, I'm just looking at the focus groups sort
Yep.
of vibe to them. And that just turns people off from politics, period.
Yep.
So this
Yeah.
whole strategy bro thing I hate because it's like you guys are so stuck in your little CPC like circle jerk that you don't really see how bad things are for like regular Canadians and how there's a huge opportunity to actually be speaking to those people if you were real. If you were real. But I do want to drive home a couple of things before we move on to all the other blunders. The second big example of his failure, of him like proving that he's not our guy, is after the public inquiry into the Emergencies Act. He did not push back on it whatsoever, and we were told that once the verdict was out, that's when he was going to push back on it. We were told that's when the time he's going to be a pushback. And not only that, he did a press conference after this news came out, after this verdict came out, and he essentially lied. He completely changed history. He completely reframed what the Trucker Convoy was all about. That's like, I'm sorry, that's Orwellian. That's 1984. That's like weird, creepy Trudeau talk where you're like, yes, like waving your wand and saying it was about the price of milk. And it's like, we know it was about vaccine mandates. Say vaccine mandates. Say it. You can't even say it. You can't even say it. This is the same establishment. This is the same thing that we've gotten from Trudeau. The same silence, really, that we've seen from the Conservative Party during the worst of the pandemic. He's not our guy. Confirmed. Like, you know, moving on.
They can't say China either. They put out a
Right.
communication today saying the Beijing Communist Party, not the Chinese Communist Party, but they used the CCP as the acronym. Like the CCP is how you would short form that. Yeah, here it is. And so they put out this news release, and if you scroll down a little bit. I don't know if you can.
Yep.
Yeah. So there it is. Yeah. Wild stuff. And it's just Beijing Communist Party. But then it says CCP right after in the communication. Does somebody not flag that?
Yeah. And it's like, it's a huge cowardice. It's a cowardice Sunday. It's just cowardice on cowardice on cowardice. And, you know, I made a Twitter thread, I think it was this morning or it was last night, where it was basically like, flip the script. This is the Conservatives who are colluding with China. That's a threat to our democracy. That's treason. You should resign. Like, these are the rhetoric. This is what you do to your political opponents. Like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Why the hell is the I was going to say the Communist Conservative Party. Why the hell isn't the CPC like knocking it out of the park with the rhetoric game? And this is the thing, again, the conservative, like, you know, the strategy bros. No, they have to do this. They have to do that. They have to play the strategy. There is such an exposed weak point. Like the Conservative Party has never had so much ammunition to throw at Trudeau, I don't think ever. And instead, they are still they're almost doing him a favor, quite frankly.
They're slow walking it. They're not putting people on talk shows daily to talk about the failures. I mean, they're not firing on all cylinders like you would expect. Yep. When Poilievre was running the leadership campaign, he was firing on all cylinders, and you'd expect to see that. it's very it's very apropos of somebody who's relying on the advisors, right? And that's not going to win you anything. It's not going to win people's trust. And that's fundamentally what it boils down to. One of the things I want to mention, though, is I'm not a policy or strategy guy with regards to, I think that that's legit. I just think it explains it. Because if you come in and say, I want to do X, Y, Z, and then you've got 10 people at a table, and I'm speaking like of Poilievre, and 10 people at a table who say, oh, that's a bad strategy, here's what it should do. And then maybe the polls respond to what they say, and they find some credibility. So he's doing that. I just think it's a good explanation for why we're seeing what he's doing. Not that I agree with it. Does that make sense? Does that distinction make sense?
I mean, sort of, but it really only confirms like the sort of premise and framework of the convoy. Like, this is a bunch of Canadians who are for Canadians who are against this establishment who is not serving us. So you're essentially saying, oh no, I understand what the Conservative Party is doing because they are part of the establishment and they care about the Conservative Party. They care about their lobbyists. They care about their brand. They care about the CPC. They don't care about Canadians. So like, I agree with that, but that's also like a massive problem and something that is totally unacceptable. But I'm just saying it explains it.
Yeah, no, it's not acceptable. But it just explains the behavior. Because for me, I often look for an explanation for the behavior. Like, why would they do this? But the reason they do this is because this is what the strategy says. This is what the focus groups say. This is what the polls say. So if we don't say this, we're going to lose support, and we can't lose support because then Justin Trudeau wins, right? That's how it's framed.
You know, and I think people will say, oh, what's the solution? Like, I think part of the solution is to, if you're a CPC supporter, get upset, go rogue, make them afraid. Because what we don't want is, it scares me kind of in the same way that it was such a bad omen that blackface got elected. You know, like we found out he wore blackface, and then everyone voted for him anyway. So it's like, okay, there's some sort of like precedent that has been set with this now. So you're basically saying, I want some hypocritical, like fake progressive person leading our country who's basically a sociopath who's going to lie. Like, we got exactly what we voted for. And I think the same thing, unfortunately, will happen with conservatives if they decide to just kind of like blindly not challenge this guy. I understand if they still want to vote when the election day comes, but like, if you don't challenge this guy and try to change him before the election day, you're going to get exactly what you voted for, which is somebody who is pretending to be conservative, someone who is pretending to vote to fight for you, and someone who is not doing that and is only upholding this evil establishment who we already know the true colors of, and it's not pretty.
Yeah, but that's the point I was going to make as well. Like, we saw the dairy cartel influencing the Conservative National Convention when Andrew Scheer was there. We saw the influence these very, very small special interest groups have. And with all of that kind of knowledge, the ability to stand up and stop this stuff, there's a lot of momentum behind those party politics. And maybe Canada should, I mean, good luck abolishing party politics, but it's pretty wild how much power, just using dairy as an example, right? Like, they dump milk. If you made a law, you can't dump milk, you have to give milk at cost to local hospitals, homeless shelters, blah, blah, blah. Like, bag it up, put it on a truck. That's extra milk that was generated. That's food for the homeless. That's food for the needy, et cetera, et cetera. No, they won't do that. The milk lobby is really, really powerful, right? Yeah. We don't have too much time, so we got to move to the next.
Oh, we're getting complaints in the chat right now that we didn't do a land acknowledgement.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. So we're on the Ashkenazi land. Sorry about that.
No, we don't. No.
But no. Speaking of land acknowledgements, we'll discuss the disavowal of Christine Anderson as well. And this is essentially, people are wondering, oh, was that actually words from Pierre Poilievre? Well, this is Melissa Lantsman, the deputy leader of the Conservative Party, saying, I'm 100% on side with this statement. In case you've sent me an email, they're racist, they're vile. I don't like this
hold
person,
on. You
blah,
forgot
blah, blah.
Islamophobia, vile anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and anti-immigrant views. Excuse me? You're not allowed to hold specific views? Islamophobia? There's no fear of Islam. That is a made-up word that is meant to silence people about having any concerns about weaponized, illegal immigration, unvetted, unchecked people coming into our country. And that is ridiculous. us that this is the Conservative Party of Canada. What are they conservative? Our borders? Not really.
Yeah, and it's like, dude, they are liberals. This Conservative Party are liberals. Like, this is the exact same rhetoric. This is the exact same moral condemnation that the Liberal Party does. These people are no different. The only difference is that they want to save you a bit of money on milk. And it's like, well, that might seem appealing for the next few years that you can save some money, but it's like the country is over. Like the Canadian culture as we know it, like they don't want to conserve it. These people don't want to conserve it. So it's like,
no, well,
I understand when people want to just kind of jump at, hey, let's get the libs out. But it's like, how about let's save the country and not just put a Band-Aid on what is clearly like a gaping wound here.
This open gaping where the Band-Aid is like enveloped by the wound. That's not going to do. That's not.
Pretty freaking much, dude.
That's not going to do it.
Pretty much. Do you want to talk about Han-Dong or should we go to the Toronto mayoral stuff?
Let's do the Toronto mayoral stuff to finish up. Okay. It's going to be fun. So Chris Sky, Ben Bankus, or Anthony Furey. Who are you voting for?
Dude, it's Chris Sky all the way. Chris Sky, because the thing is,
Ben Bankus has the best platform.
I mean, his is a joke platform, which is like funny enough. He's capitalizing on it. He's getting the humor out there, which I appreciate.
It's so funny,
but also like, you know, Chris Sky has a massive amount of popularity. Chris Sky has been, you know, speaking out against the COVID stuff from the very beginning. A lot of Toronto people didn't like the COVID stuff. Okay. Like you might see the people with masks on.
He got a lot of people at rallies. I saw
people love Chris Sky. People love him.
So you think Anthony Furey would lose to Chris Sky?
I think Anthony Furey is boring. I'm sorry, Anthony, if you're watching, but sure. I'll bring it up here. This.
Yeah. Here's George Ann saying, great news for Toronto. An intelligent, caring, responsible citizen who genuinely wants to see Toronto grow and prosper and regain its reputation as a safe, beautiful city. Anthony Furey is looking into becoming mayor, right? He's seriously considering a run for mayor. So there you go. And it's quoting which news article or which news person is this?
Statement to Globe and Mail.
Laura Stone, L_Stone. So there you go. Very interesting. I don't know if Anthony Furey's the straight, like the what is it? The conservative candidate. Yeah, he'd be a boring candidate.
I'm tired, boring.
Do you think he'd be the other side of John Tory's like radical left? Do you think he'd be a moderate Doug Ford, liberal type conservative?
We were just talking about the gaping wound in Canada that is like whatever you want to call it, woke progressivism, whether you want to call it the corruption in every level of politics, you know, and so much needs to change. Like there needs to be a massive cultural shift. And aside from Chris Sky winning and becoming the next mayor and actually cleaning up, Queen's Park, aside from all that, him campaigning alone, every single freedom fighter should get behind this guy. Every single person who wants to save this country should get behind Chris Sky because he is a huge middle finger to the establishment. He is a huge disruption to regular conversation. He's a huge disruption to normies. And that's exactly what we need. We don't need, no offense to anyone else who's running, but we don't need a bunch of like people in suits like spouting off the same safe talking points. We need somebody who is going to get airtime. We need somebody who's going to get attention, and he's going to tell the truth and just be controversial as hell. It's going to be disruptive, and that's what Canada needs right now. We need disruption. That's exactly what the convoy was, and that was the only thing that's been successful in recent history. Chris Sky represents that. He represents that disruption, and I know you think he's egotistical. You think he's a little bit of an a-hole. Like, totally understandable. But guess what? Everybody eventually comes around, because when you actually take the time to see what he's talking about or actually kind of like watch a longer podcast, you're like, this guy actually knows his stuff. And there's actually a little bit of hint of humility there, because he's really been persecuted a lot in terms of, being charged with this. He's constantly in the courts, and he's not always harping on that. Like if he wanted to, he could be a victim all the time. Look at me. I'm like, the state's persecuting me. He doesn't really rely on that. He truly does focus on, calling out the corruption and this sort of thing. So he is the only candidate in my mind. And if you consider how popular he is compared to who he's up against, like it's going to be Chris Sky, this animated, loudmouthed gym bro who I'm sorry to say definitely has I'm not sorry to say he definitely has appeal to normies in Toronto, just kind of being a regular guy. Like,
I don't know, man. like it'll be.
He's going to speak to
problem,
people who don't usually vote, and that is the real dangerous aspect.
But the problem that I see with it is that
he's going to get called racist. Is he going to get called name?
But in Toronto, and I mean, unfortunately, the demographics of the area count matter, right? And especially places like Toronto, it's a little bit easier to get.
It's a very young city.
Groups. Toronto?
It's a very young.
Like there's
city.
a lot of young
people
kids
who live in Toronto. Yep.
Maybe if he can get the 20 to 40-year-olds on board. I don't know, man. I don't know. There's a lot of people who are going to be
but like honestly, in your heart of hearts, though, do you really who do you think could actually become Toronto mayor?
My issue is I watched the Faith Goldie run, and I had faith in Faith Goldie just because it seemed like she was really impacting the conversation. And then I watched the machine turn against her because at first they kind of let it go. Like I was watching it pretty closely, and I think it was 2018. Yeah, it was 2018. It was the mayoral race at the same year as the provincial race that brought Ford to power. And I thought it was, I thought they were going to use that style of disrupting a campaign to disrupt PPC. I thought they were trialing it because I hadn't seen anything like that before. Because elections have rules, like Bell and Rogers can't deny candidate ads, but Bell and Rogers both did, and nobody suffered any consequences for it. So I'm hopeful that you're right, but I've seen a lot of examples of the machine of our expectations in society, and like Bell, Rogers, that group of corporations and government just buzzsaw through people, right?
Right. And once again, Faith Goldie, her campaign led to me joining politics. Okay. Mm-hmm. Maxime Bernier getting called all these names led to me kind of getting more involved in politics. I've told you this many times on the show, Mark. We don't know what winning looks like. And like thrashing around and being disruptive, driving a bunch of trucks to Ottawa, not knowing what's going to happen. That's part of the solution. Throwing all of our support behind Chris Sky for Toronto mayor, not knowing what's going to happen. That's part of the solution. So yeah, Chris Sky for mayor, get excited about it. I'm pretty sure you have to go see, And for everyone else running, I'm sorry, like even Anthony Fury, your heart of hearts, like you can run for a bit, but like in the last moment, you know what? I'm gonna
you gotta pass it over. You gotta pass it over to Chris Sky.
To the man.
Sky. when Trump, and yeah, you're right. I do have to go, but I wanted to point this out, and not to compare Trump and Chris Sky as a negative thing or anything like that. But when people were watching Trump, they said it's never going to happen. And they said, like, I'm not on board with this. This guy's a joke. He's not professional. He looks like an idiot.
Egotistical. He's an idiot. Yeah.
A loudmouth. Yeah. He's all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And then you sit down and listen to Trump for 5 minutes, and you realize that's not the whole story at all. Not even it's not the story at all.
Absolutely.
And so this maps well to that. And I don't disagree with you. I think that if given a fair shake, Chris Sky would have a legitimate chance, because I think that if voters were able to look past his looks, and I mean they have. Look at Rob Ford. He looked like a crack addict.
No, so, but even then, like that has an appeal in Toronto. That's got like an urban, like relatable appeal. Absolutely,
you're not wrong. And he does he does take very good care about how he looks. He just looks intimidating from somebody who may not know him and go, "That's Chris Sky. Holy shit!"
I think he's going to surprise. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. And I will say, like the number one reason probably to support Chris Sky is he is going to help expose the news media.
Yep.
And we need that in this country. We need less people trusting the news media. And I think that, once Chris Sky gains popularity during the campaign and he gets smeared, more people are going to be like, yo, this media really kind of sucks, doesn't it? It's really not telling the whole story.
People love the media, though, even the lies. Okay, dude, I got to go. So look for me at cdnPoli.com. I put out a daily hour-long show, and you'll really like it.
Amazing. Thanks for being here, Mark. You can find all my stuff at gregwycliffe.com, and we will talk to you soon.
Prevent you from speaking moistly. Speaking moistly. Keep 2 meters apart. Speaking moistly.